evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our spoiler review of episode 4 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, called The Whole World is Watching. And oh boy, was the whole world watching. If they weren't watching, they were going to be watching it on TikTok later. Like I said, it's spoiler conversations whenever we do reactions or reviews around here for the MCU. So you've been warned. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that happened this episode.
Yeah, this was a big episode.
I'm going to start with how I feel after this episode before we kind of get into the logistics of the episode itself.
Okay.
They just Marvel just kicked us in the taint again, and with the final shot of John Walker with the shield with blood on it, and I don't feel good. I don't feel like Infinity War, where I'm devastated that everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of felt like that's where they were going.
Yeah.
This is, they've utterly destroyed the idea of Captain America.
Well, I mean, as soon as they gave it to somebody else, that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And this was just the final nail in the coffin.
Right. For anybody who was holding out hope that John Walker was actually a good guy and just trying to find his way.
Yeah.
The very first time we saw him, I said I wanted to punch him in the face.
Right.
And
not Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell is amazing in this role. He's doing a great job in this role.
But he just has a punchable face. And by the end, for me, I kind of feel like vindicated, like he's just been an asshole the whole time, and now he's gonna reap what he sowed.
He's gonna. They are leaning into the comic with him going off a deep end and going on a killing spree and having to be relabeled U.S. agent. Later, he's Captain America, and then he's turned into U.S. agent, and then something else happens or whatever.
Right, and they might do that. They might, because he has tarnished the brand, right? They might take it away from him and just make him this undercover super soldier for...
Kind of like what Isaiah
side.
Bradley was, like an unknown super soldier to do stuff,
the dirty work or whatever.
Yeah. Let's start with the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning and start there. We get an opening scene that picks up from the previous week with Ayo. I think that's how you say it. Ayo.
I think it's Ayo.
Is it Ayo? And Bucky having a conversation in the alley.
Right. And
there's a flashback in that scene of her helping him with overcoming the activation words.
Deprogramming him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it said 6 years ago.
Yep.
So 5 years ago was the snap.
Right.
And actually, it's 5.5 years ago.
Right.
Is the snap. And so this is, he was 6-8 months into recovery when they go get him on the farm and stuff like that.
Yep.
So he is still dealing with, like we talked about with Wanda, he's still dealing with stuff. He's only a year-ish in his personal timeline of dealing with everything he did as Winter Soldier.
Right. Yep. So that kind of puts that all into, I mean, you knew, right? You knew that he had been gone, right? He got snapped.
Yeah.
So, but you just didn't know between the end of, was it Civil War? That they take him,
put him on
or
the
Winter Soldier, that it was Winter Soldier, that they take him and put him.
Yes. No, it's Civil War.
Is it Civil War?
Into Civil War, because him and Sam fight Iron Man at the
right.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah. And so they take him to Wakanda and kind of put him on ice, right? So you don't know, did they bring him out immediately and start working on him, so now we kind of have that.
Or that hibernation in there? They worked on they did some trigger things and did some hypnosis and stuff like that in there. That scene alone is in the first 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, and
Sebastian Stan proves he's freaking amazing.
Right,
he is so good in that scene. Why Ayo is going through. I don't know how to say her name. Ayo. You're just gonna tell me in the comments that her name is Ayo. So whatever. It's just be nice. But her going through the words and him mentally and emotionally breaking down.
Yeah.
And getting through everything.
You're like crying right along with him.
Yeah. Which is so good.
Yeah.
And I just if that was the only thing that happened in this episode, I would have been super happy.
Yeah. They don't have time for that to be the only thing.
Right.
Gotta keep this moving.
They work with Zemo to figure out where the funeral is gonna be, and Zemo plays some tricks. And in that conversation, Sam talks to the teacher, who is one of the enhanced for
Flag
Smashers.
Yep.
And he says the teacher says, we've been trying to do stuff, and we were promised by the GCR that we'd have teachers and supplies, and that was 6 months ago, and we haven't heard from anybody, and so we're just having to make do.
Yep.
And that just adds to this idea that they've been kind of left behind.
Right.
And it adds to the motivation for the Flag Smashers, which we get again later with Carly and the conversation that she has over the funeral for Mama Diana. Donya. So they laid out a ton of stuff for the Flag Smashers and what they're trying to do and why they're doing it and why they're kind of left behind.
And Sam is probably pretty much the audience in that conversation, in that everybody gets it. What you're going through is wrong. But even right now, it's I completely see how this would absolutely happen.
It has happened. On, just pick any African country that's been
even
devastated by anything over the last 50 years.
Was it 200 Haiti
years.
Or Cuba?
Haiti.
That got hit by the earthquake. And I just read something the other day that they most of the island still doesn't even have electricity or water.
Yeah. Puerto Rico,
they just got left.
Puerto Rico still didn't have running water until 6 months ago after they got hit with a hurricane. They're U.S. territory. It's trying to be a state. It is something definitely that happens within the real world, and that's why we feel this draw.
Right, and Sam's like, I get it, and it goes back to, what was that, the second episode where Sam is trying to get the loan, and we're really, kind of understanding or feeling his experience as a black man and his sister's experience. And at the time we were probably I'm not sure where they're going with this, but they were laying those seeds so that when he goes and has this conversation with her, that you understand that he does understand where they're coming from. But killing people, you're torn at the end of this episode. You totally understand why they're doing it that way, and it's just, there's got to be a better way, but I don't know what that would be.
The comment that Carly made in the last episode when she blew up the building, and then the ramifications of that happened in this episode where they talked about 11 hurt and 3 dead. But she said in that episode, this is the only language they will listen to.
Right.
And they've tried everything else.
Right.
And later in the episode, when Carly calls Sarah and to try to get Sam to come meet her and whatever.
Right.
She even in there, Sarah says something, "You're the terrorist," and Carly comes back with the revolutionary. Depends on what
side you're on or whatever. Yeah,
and I really appreciated that because it really, everybody's the hero of their own story,
right?
And so this idea of having, she's tried everything else, and now with the super soldier serum that they got, it allows them to bring the most attention, whether good, bad, or indifferent.
Right, but they've ramped it up, and so now the U.S. government, other side, has ramped it up, right? So you kill ours, we kill yours, you kill more. It just, it's just not a good means to an end, but what else are you going to do? And the whole conversation between her and Sam both times is, she is not like this insane radical, right? She's not, she just wants somebody to help them.
Yeah.
And, if she can do it any other way,
she would.
But that's why she reaches out to him again. She could have easily not called his sister and not reached out to him again.
And she even says, "I would never hurt you. I hurt your family. I actually just needed to talk to you."
Yeah.
And she, in that conversation, particularly points out that she's not going against America or the Avengers or anything else. She's going after the corporations that are keeping them in poverty.
Right.
And again, a real world situation that's going on right now. That you have these big giant corporations who would rather have you, be in debt,
right,
and not quite indentured servitude, because that isn't legal yet. But it is something that is, there is a level of indenturedness with the idea of keeping you down.
Right.
And they do, and corporations and governments and throughout the world and the country do this, and they do this through voter suppression, or you ask for aid and they say no because you don't have a work history, or a national disaster happens and FEMA takes half of the money that's given away to fund FEMA, and then that money never gets distributed to people. So it happens. It's really hard. I guess that's part of the reason why I'm struggling with this episode so much. I love this episode. I'm not struggling with it that way.
Right.
Is that, this is close to home.
Yeah. And there's just no answer, right?
Yeah.
There's no...
the other thing that's been going on a lot in this episode was the super soldier serum. I did this last week too. Would you take it or not?
Right.
And
John Walker asked that.
And Zemo asked that.
And Sam. Zemo asked it too, yeah.
And Zemo is, in that conversation, talks about how Carly is anarchist? No. Supremacist,
right?
I can say supremacist. I can't say super soldier. And Sam automatically answers no. I wouldn't take it.
Right.
And John and Lamar both talk about how they would without hesitation, which is exactly the point. And I can't say, from my point of view of my view of the world, that if I had an opportunity to take this serum and bring light onto the system, whatever the system is, I can't say I wouldn't at least think about it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting to have, to make that. It's not even a moral dilemma. It's a personal ethics question that they're asking in this episode too. Oh, by the way, there's all this other stuff going on.
Right.
This episode's deep.
It is. There was, like I said, there was a lot going on. We got Carter. Sharon. Peggy, no. Sharon Carter, for a hot second.
Yeah.
She's still has access to satellites, even though she's on the outside. Kind of interesting. Said that the Mandracore, the Mandracore.
You said it, now I can't say it right.
Madricore.
It's not a G. It's a T.
Madricore. Anyway.
Anyways. Madagascar. We're going to Madagascar. Wow. We should have more drinks before we do this.
Anyway, that it
Madripoor.
Fuck it. Madripoor. I don't know. One of those.
It's about ready to explode.
Because the power broker wants his serum back. However.
Right. So Carly had it in a fanny pack, which in the initial thought is probably a good idea to keep it on you with whatever.
Yeah.
And then Zemo tracks. So the scene with Sam and Carly, they, Sam's trying to get to her, and she's listening.
Yep.
Because Sam, like he says, is he was working with PTSD.
Right. And he understands, as a black man, he understands kind of what they're dealing with.
But John Walker and Lamar show up, and John is very impatient, whatever. So they end up having a fight. John goes in and tries to be over the top Captain America, whatever. In that fight, Zemo traps Carly in this other part of the building and shoots her. It's not a mortal wound or anything like that.
Like
she's going to heal from it. But in that, she loses the fanny pack, and all the super soldier serum gets sprayed out of the floor, and Zemo crushes it all.
Right.
Except for one vial that John Walker finds.
Right. That kind of rolled behind a pot or whatever. And there's a moment where you're like, is he gonna grab one? And so this has kind of been a thing out there with some folks on the internet that Zemo may have already taken it or stole one from the doctor guy in the last episode. And to take it so that he's on the same footing as these super soldiers or whatever. And I mean, my thought all the time has been like, he is never going to take this because it's everything he is fighting against. Right. It's everything he can't totally stand. But then there's that moment where you're like, is he gonna pick one up? And then he just starts smashing him with his boot. And it was interesting shot because they shot it on a piece of glass or whatever, so that you're looking up as he's smashing them all on the ground. So I think that removed anybody's doubt,
right? And a little bit of the doubt too when he has that conversation with Sam about
whether or not you would take it,
take it, and supremacist and stuff like that, and all that conversation. But the idea that Madripoor,
we got there,
is about ready to explode, adds to a little bit of the conversation that leads to. The Flag Smashers have Power Broker on one side, who's going to come after them because he wants a super soldier serum. And then you have John Walker on the other side, and they all have this moment of like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And Carly decides to go after Captain America.
Right.
And that's what leads to the conversation with Sam. And
right. She'll deal with the Power Broker when he gets there, which is not going to be pretty because now not only did she lose it, but now it's actually gone, except for that one, which is now gone as well.
It is also gone as well. We have a big fight between. So we have the conversation with Lamar and John about the super soldier serum and how they could have, if they had it, they could have saved a lot more lives in Afghanistan when they were there.
Right.
And John talks about the mistake that he made and got a Medal of Honor for it. Got multiple medals of honors for it. And is it Medal of Honors or Medals
of Honor? I think it's medals because the medals themselves are plural. Okay. I would like to point out though that would they have saved all lives, or would they have just saved their buddies' lives?
They've been their buddies.
Right,
yeah.
but he said it. We would have saved so many more lives, but at the expense of the enemy.
The enemy, yeah, which is a very again, a very American military kind of...
Right, I don't care how many of you guys die as long as my guys don't die.
My guys are, yeah, exactly. So, with the... with Carly trying to talk to Sam into letting them take care of Captain America, and Sam and Bucky just trying to talk her off the ledge, it becomes aware that they have trapped John Walker in another building, and so there's a big fight that breaks out. By the way, we have to get to Dora Milaje. Let's talk about the Dora Milaje fight first before we get to the last big fight.
Yes, because that helps to frame John Walker's state of mind.
Yes. So they go back to Zemo's loft. Back up a little bit. They go to Zemo's loft after Zemo breaks all the vials.
Right.
And they so Sam, Bucky, and Zemo are all having a discussion about what and John and Lamar, John Walker and Lamar come in, and John's very much the you're coming with me, I'm taking
he's
control
done
of
messing
this.
around with Zemo, I'm taking you with me.
And he is unhinged.
Yes.
He's hanging on by a thread. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But he is obviously been showing more and more traits of not being as wholesome as we all thought he could have been or should have been.
My theory is that he was given maybe the refined, filtered, whatever serum when he was in the military, so he doesn't have that. He's kind of losing it along with the, because he obviously has some sort of super strength before any of this happened, because he was whipping the shield around and stuff, and he is getting more. It's almost like roid rage, right? That he,
a little bit of that.
He's got, and maybe that's what it turns out to be. But there is something going on.
There was something already going on before all that happens. While they're having this discussion, Ayo, shows up with two other members of the Dora Milaje, which I can say, but I can't say Ayo. And they are there for Zemo,
right?
And they make a point of telling. She calls him James, which I love.
Yeah,
don't call him Buck. She doesn't call him Bucky. She calls him James. Yeah, James. And she pretty much makes the comment of, the ends and means doesn't mean anything anymore. We're taking him. He cost us our king at the UN and all that stuff. And so John tries to de-escalate the situation after getting a spear thrown at his head that's stuck on the wall. And he tries to talk everybody down, and then he puffs up a little bit.
Well, I don't know. He
tried to,
I wouldn't say it was talking down. It was, oh, sweetie.
Sweetie, yeah.
It
talking down too.
Yes.
But also trying to do that, I'm the one in charge, I'm the alpha male in the room.
Right.
And everybody in the room knows that he's not, except for maybe Lamar.
Yeah.
Lamar doesn't know, he's just blind to his friend.
Right.
But everybody in the room understands that he's not the big dog in the room.
No.
And even Bucky says, you don't want to pick this fight with Dora Milaje.
Right.
And then they have a fight. And John Walker is getting his ass kicked, and Lamar's getting his ass kicked by the Dora Milaje, and Bucky and Sam kind of stand off to the side and like, do we jump in? Do we try to help? Do we try to help?
And Bucky is like the voice of reason. He's the one that's like, we should probably stop this. Of everybody, I would think he'd be standing back going, no, I just want to watch this guy get his ass kicked.
Go, because when he gets his ass kicked, I'm going to pick up the shield and we're going to leave. So they finally jump into the fight, and he tries to stop Ayo from harming John, from going after Zemo, and in that section, she like acupunctures his arm off.
Yeah, she's like, doot, 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 and it goes plop, and he's like,
They finally call an end to that fight, and John Walker is on his knees, and one of the Dora Milaje,
the spear went through, so he's pinned to the table or whatever.
But somebody, one of the Dora Milaje, kicks the shield like Sam used to do, and grabs it and is holding it. So there's a Dora Milaje spear, cool outfit, badass chick holding the shield. Okay, where's that show? But because of that, John has a moment where Lamar asks him if he's okay, or Sam asks him if he's okay, and he says something. He kind of mumbles it a little bit, whatever. But he specifically talks about not being enough.
Yeah,
he's not enough. He just got his ass kicked by 3 women.
Yeah,
and
well, you're not. You're a shield. You're not.
You're the mascot.
Right.
They called him the mascot in this episode.
Right. You're the cover boy. You're not an Avenger. You're not.
Yeah. So when we go to the final fight where they're trying to kill him, they pin him down. Lamar comes in and tries to save him after Lamar was kind of trapped and tied up, and then he got released, and then John kind of got cornered, and they were holding him down, and Carly was going to run over and kill him, and Lamar jumped in the way, and she knocked him out of the way and hit him into a post and breaks his back and kills him.
Yep.
Carly was not trying to kill him. She was just trying to push him out of the way,
right?
Because she was trying to kill Captain America, because the symbol of killing Captain America is way more important than killing
his
Falcon
sidekick.
or his sidekick Lamar, Battlestar, which is the worst nickname in the entire Iron Patriot's just about as bad.
Yes.
You know, American military trying to come up with names for superheroes is just in the Marvel universe is just shitty. But all the Flag Smashers understand at that point in time that that's not what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And they all freeze, and John goes over to try to see how, and they all take off.
Right.
And John goes from hanging on by a string with a little bit of roid rage to all out blind utter rage.
Yeah.
And in that blind utter rage, it starts to come out that he took the serum.
Yep.
And he's jumping from one floor to the other, like they showed what Bucky doing earlier, and breaking through walls and bending pipes, doing all this stuff that we know that Steve can do, that the Flag Smashers can do, that Bucky can do. Everybody who's taken this, they've laid out all this stuff that all the people who've been enhanced can do.
Right.
And now John's doing it naturally, so it's obvious that he took the one vial that was left that he saw.
Right, because he took it. We saw him take it. So you know he's going to probably take it. I mean, you know that there was going to be some catalyst that...
But the catalyst happened before they got there. And then him already being kind of off the rails a little bit anyways.
Yeah.
Then his best friend, his sidekick...
Yeah, that was
the guy who actually was keeping him somewhat in check.
Yeah.
Dies.
Right.
And he goes into a blind rage and goes after everybody.
But you don't know if he took it before they got there or after, right?
Right. They don't show it. I'm assuming it was before because just the way the timing of everything was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he injected himself and then went through the transformation.
Is there a transformation?
There's the Flag Smashers talked about how they had days where they were sick and like kind of like taking the coronavirus vaccine. Your body is building up an immune.
So then, did he take it, or is this him already being enhanced?
Maybe.
Because
I mean, I like the idea that he's already enhanced.
It takes days. He didn't have days.
Yeah.
This is all in the same day.
Yeah. I like the idea that he's already enhanced. That's my favorite.
And it's a misdirection that he picked it up.
He picked it up, and he still has it. And maybe they give it to Sam down the line, even though Sam said he wouldn't take it, but he needs to take it to be, the Captain America, at the end and stuff like that. So that whole thought process, I still like the idea that he is already enhanced somewhat, whatever. In the chase, he chases down the teacher, who is also one of the enhanced for the Flag Smashers.
Yep.
And proceeds. The teacher says it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And John is in such a blind rage that it doesn't matter. It's one of the bad guys.
Yep.
And he beats him to death with the edge of the Captain America's shield.
In the middle of the courtyard, surrounded by people and cell phones.
The world is watching.
Yep.
And now this image of Captain America killing innocents.
Yep.
In a foreign country is going to be the dialogue that goes forward, at least in the next episode. And the episode probably after that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, when he had the Dora Milaje fight, Zemo did the whole El Chapo and
took off through the sewer.
Got out through the sewer in the bathroom. So you got that hanging out there too. But the final image, I want to use it as a thumbnail, but I decided not to because it's too spoilery. Is this shot from down below up to John Walker with him in the Captain America pose, but the bottom of the shield's all covered in blood.
Yep. It's got to be, I'm sure somebody will tell us, but that's got to be in the comic somewhere. Like that's a cover art for a comic, if ever.
Or a final panel kind of thing for issue run or whatever. But I knew that he was going to go off the rails. I mean, if we engage the story, engage in the story that was being told in the show, he was going to go off the rails no matter what. Yeah. But we also, from the comic, the reading I've been doing and whatever for that, I knew that he goes off the rails on there. So it makes sense that I kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But the symbology of Captain America.
Symbolism.
Symbiology. Don't beat me up with the cannoli. The symbolism of that of Captain America killing an innocent on foreign soil is going to be something that's going to be worldwide ramifications for all kinds of things.
And he has been representing or helping the
GRC.
GRC. Yeah. So that's not gonna look good for them either.
We still have the power broker laying out there. We still have whatever's going on with Sharon. We still have Zemo going out there. We still have the ramifications from John. There's one thing I want to talk about real quick that's related about this episode, but not necessarily the episode itself. I heard a little bit of a non-spoiler review this morning, and somebody on the internet, I will not name them here, said something that in the moment I held my breath, and now that I've seen it, it was completely and utterly ridiculously wrong. The person said that this episode was amazing until the last 10 minutes, and then a 1980s trope happens in the last 10 minutes and leads to where we get to. And that's the death of a main character's friend or loved one or whatever.
Okay.
And he said that I thought we left that behind in the 80s, and that's not a storytelling trope that should be being told today, and it ruins the episode.
Yeah, I think you're wrong.
You are utterly, consistently wrong in this subject. And I'm sorry, I value your opinion, but you are projecting your own things that you want onto a story that's being told. And this is why I bring it up. We talk about it a lot around here. Engage in the story being told.
Yep.
The story being told is a guy who has been thrust into the spotlight in a mantle who cannot handle it, and the one person who could help him through that, if he dies or not, there was something that was going to trigger him.
Right. Well, and it wasn't just that. We talked about it.
Right.
The Dora Milaje beating his ass. The people aren't taking him seriously. Him storming in and I'm taking over this situation and screwing everything up and screwing everything up and screwing everything up.
And I had this moment in Afghanistan that could have saved a lot more lives. They gave me a Medal of Honor for the mistake I made. Like all of this.
And even the episode, was that 2 or 3, that starts with him sitting in the locker. I guess that was 2. Him sitting in the locker room of his old high school, and having the conversation about him basically feeling like he wasn't worthy. That sets it up right there that he is only going to try to prove himself over and over and over and over and over again, and he's doing a bad job.
I'm sorry. Every story out there has a catalyst of some level.
Right, otherwise you'd be complaining that why did he just go off the rails? There has to be a catalyst. There has to be.
And if you read the comic, again, from the point of view of, I've not read the comics, but I've been reading up on information about the comics. This is what happened in the comics.
Right.
He had somebody who got killed. I don't remember if it was Lamar or the Battlestar or not, whatever. But I stop talking when you are just making words.
Yeah.
We are not the biggest go deep in okay, maybe Star Wars and maybe a little bit of Harry Potter. But like this comic book stuff, we're coming from the MCU point of view, but we're also engaging in the story that's being told. And the story being told, he was going to go off the rails no matter what. This was the catalyst that got him there. And he and his friend had to die. People have to die in this show.
Yeah.
Have to. It's not like WandaVision where she's dealing with grief. This is dealing with ramifications of corporate America, of being black in America, of corporate control, of forced propaganda. Like, all that's what this show's about. And if we're going to have this conversation about Carly and the Flag Smashers being the ones who are pointing the spotlight back on those people, at some point in time, major characters are going to die. And I'm telling you, it's not going to be Sam or Bucky.
Right.
And probably not Carly. I wouldn't be surprised if Carly dies. But I just... people have to die to make this have stakes to it.
Right.
And you complained 3 years ago, the same person complained 3 years ago when Endgame happened and said there's no stakes in the MCU. And because everybody came back. And it's like...
you can't have it both ways.
You can't have it both ways. I'm sorry, that conversation just pisses me the fuck off. Just watch what's going on and engage in that. If you want to have a conversation and say, hey, I like to have seen it done, have the catalyst be something else.
Right.
Like the White House getting bombed or something like that.
Bitching about it without... it's the same thing with everything else. You can't... if you want something to change, offer a solution. Don't just bitch that you don't like what happened.
Yep. That is our bitching about the internet for this episode. I feel like there's something else, but we've said it. There's a shit ton in this episode.
So much in this episode.
It was 53 minutes with whatever the 6 minutes of credits, so it's like 47, 48 minutes, whatever. But we got 2 episodes left and all this stuff laying in there. So this will definitely be, once it all is done, we'll do what we do with WandaVision, which we'll sit down in one day and binge it all. So that is our thoughts and our reaction about the internet. And let us of Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 4, called The World Is Watching. Let us know what you thought of this episode, our reaction to it, and the internet as a whole in the comments down below. Be nice. That is a requirement around here. I have the block hammer of doom, but please engage in the conversation. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Links are in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.